Sai Ram. So today we'll be doing the revision of lesson number 3, that is India's internal challenges. As we have already completed with our portion for first semester, we'll be revising all the lessons once again. Okay, so let's begin with the lesson. What have we studied in the first part of our lesson? That was the unrest in Punjab and also the issues related to the northeast of India. Now, what was the unrest in Punjab? Why it resulted there? So, Akali Dal was the major political party in Punjab, and in 1973, Akali Dal passed an Anandpur Sahib resolution, and this resolution had put forth certain demands. Now, what were the demands put forth by the Anandpur Sahib resolution? So, its first demand was that Chandigarh should be made a part of Punjab, and also the Punjabi speaking parts in other states should be included in the state of Punjab. Also, recruitment of Punjab from Punjab in the Indian army should be increased, and more autonomy should be given to the state of Punjab. Apart from this, there were also other demands like Akali Dal, it came to power in Punjab in 1977. While taking charge, they asked for a larger share of river waters for Punjab, and also they demanded for Amritsar to be recognized as a holy city. It should get the status of holy city. This was again a demand of the Akali Dal. Now in 1980, this movement of independent Khalistan took root in Punjab, and during that period the leader of Akali Dal was Harcharan Singh Longowal. He used to direct his activists from the Golden Temple to stage a protest, and on the other side the Golden Temple armed followers started gathering around the staunch Khalistan supporter Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. So as there was a protest, during that period terrorist activists had begun, and Bhindranwale was arrested in 1981, and he was accused for the murder of a newspaper editor, Lala Jagat Narayan. After this incident, the situation worsened, and due to these developments, the president's rule was implemented in Punjab in 1983. Bhindranwale, he went to stay at a religious place called Akal Takht. Bhindranwales captured the Golden Temple and they built a barricade of sandbags over there, and this area now it looked like forts. This greatly disturbed the peace of Punjab, and it was a major challenge to Indian democracy. So as a result, some provision had to be made to stop this, so an Operation Blue Star was started. So the main task of getting the terrorist out of the Golden Temple was entrusted to Major General Kuldeep Singh Brar. So he was given the responsibility of throwing out the terrorists from the Golden Temple. On the morning of 3rd June 1984, the mission Operation Blue Star started. Now this operation ended on 6th June. In this military operation, the Indian army functioned with great restraint, and so the operation ended with the death of Bhindranwale and other terrorists. In 1986, an operation had to be conducted against terrorists in the Golden Temple once more, and it was called as the Operation Black Thunder. After this action was taken, the process of establishment of peace in Punjab picked up a great momentum, and so these were the issues related to Punjab. Why there was an unrest in Punjab. Then let's talk about the issues concerning northeast of India. Now, Northeast India, it consisted of 8 states, which were they? Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and Tripura. International borders of India touch each of these states to varying extents, and these states are different with respect to ethnicity, language and cultural diversity. The first Prime Minister of independent India, he took the lead in bringing the tribes living in these areas into the mainstream of the country. And so in 1954, he formed the Northeast Frontier Agency, that is NEFA, comprising of the territories of the Sino-Indian border and the tribal areas towards the north of Assam. Nehru took the position of bringing about the development of hundreds of tribes in these ports while preserving their culture. Special provisions also have been made with respect to their areas in the 6th schedule of Indian Constitution. In 1965, the responsibility of administering this area was given to the Ministry of External Affairs. The Northeastern Council Act was passed in 1971 and it was supposed to advise the central government regarding the aspects of common interest in economic and social spheres, interstate transport, electricity, flood control, etc. So, now these were the issues related to Northeast India. Now let's study each of the state in detail. So, Mizoram. The tribes in Northeast India, they have an ancient history, and when India became independent, the government gave administrative autonomy to the districts of Mizo majority areas of the Lushai Hills. When the States Reorganization Commission was appointed in 1954, the expectations of the people in this area grew. And so Mizo leaders, they started demanding an autonomous Mizo province. In 1959, the territory of Mizoram experienced severe drought. And during this famine, Mizo leader Lal Denga, he served the common people a lot. In 1961, Lal Denga established an organization called the Mizo National Front, that is the MNF. He asked for Greater Mizoram, an independent nation carved out of Tripura, Manipur and Mizo majority areas from the Lushai Hills. In March 1966, Mizo National Front announced the emergence of independent Mizoram. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi handled the situation firmly and suppressed the rebellion. When the situation was calmed down in 1972, the Mizo majority area was given the status of a union territory. And in 1975, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had an agreement with Mizo National Front and Mizoram was given the status of a full-fledged state. Lal Denga became the chief minister of the state. Now next was Nagaland. Nagaland, the Naga tribe in Northeast India is known as a martial tribe. The Naga tribe had settled in eastern Himalayas, the Naga Hills, border areas of Assam and Myanmar. In 1966, some educated Naga youth established an organization called Naga National Council, that is NNC. Later, they made a demand for an independent state of Nagaland and they were led by Angami Zapu Fizo. In 1954, the Naga National Council announced the establishment of an independent federation of Nagaland. In 1955, skirmishes happened between local Nagas and the soldiers of the Assam Rifles. Military action was taken to suppress the skirmishes. And so several rounds of discussion took place between the central government and the Naga National Council. And so central government later decided to give the Naga majority territory the status of a union territory. Nagaland was made a full-fledged state on 1st of December 1963 by putting together the Naga majority territory and a part of Vansang. Now the next state was Assam. In 1983, there was an intense agitation staged by All Assam Students Union and the Assam Ganasangram Parishad over the question of the dominance in Assam of Bengali migrants. In 1985, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, Central Home Minister Shankar Rao Chavan and Assamese leader Prafulla Kumar Mohanto, they signed an accord, according to which it was decided to send the Bangladeshi citizens who had infiltrated in Assam back to their original places. In 1986, elections were held for Assam Legislative Assembly and Prafulla Kumar Mohanto of the Assam Gana Parishad became the new Chief Minister. Due to this democratic process, it became possible to establish peace in Assam. The next was Arunachal Pradesh. In 1954, NEFA was created and in 1972, it began to be called Arunachal Pradesh, that is the region of the rising sun. On 20th February 1987, it got the status of a constituent state. During the period from 1960 to 2000, Northeast India had progressed towards a more mature democracy. This area is on the path of progress through industrialization, spread of education, etc. So these were the issues related to the Northeast India and also the other states. But at the same time, there were other challenges which India had to face apart from this. So let us see one by one. The one was Naxalism. Now, Naxalism movement, this movement was started in Naxalbari in Darjeeling district in West Bengal. The Naxalites, they organized small landholding farmers and land laborers and took charge of their lands. They put up red flags and declared that area as a free territory in 1967. Now, all those movements that took inspiration from this rebellion are called as Naxalite movement. The movement had the objectives of establishing action committee to raise a voice against the exploitation of farmers by the landlords and confiscate the land of the landlords and distribute it among the tenants. Later, the movement stayed away from its objectives and it took recourse to terrorism to prevent any government schemes and welfare policies from reaching the common people. The Naxalites started a parallel system. This made Naxalism a serious challenge to India's security. So this was one challenge, and this movement was located in West Bengal. Later the movement spread in East Godavari in Andhra Pradesh, parts of Visakhapatnam, Karimnagar in Telangana, Adilabad Bastar, Rajnandangao and Sukama in Chhattisgarh, Gadchiroli, Bhandadara and parts of Chandrapur in Maharashtra. Then Baleghat and Mandala in Madhya Pradesh and Koratpur in Odisha. So in this way, this Naxalite movement started spreading all over. So in order to maintain their influence, the Naxalites established an organization called Liberation Guerrilla Army. That is People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. So PLGA. This conflict is still going on. Now the next challenge which India had to face was communalism. It is a serious threat to the unity of our country, and communalism emerges out of narrow religious pride. When you have pride, or when you are proud of one's own religion, then therein it happens of the superiority and inferiority towards other religion. So the British had sowed the seeds of communalism in our country. People of different religions have happily lived together since many centuries. Now as we feel that our own religion is superior, then we started considering the other religion to be very inferior, and then we start treating people accordingly, and this affects the behavior of the people, and ultimately this causes the disturbance in the peace of the country. Now what is the main reason? Fanaticism is the base of communalism. It makes one oblivious of national interest. People of different religion don't trust each other. They become suspicious of each other. Compatriots following different religions are looked at as enemies, and even commensality or coming together on festivals become rare. So because this is there, that this impression is there in the minds of the people that my religion is superior than the others, and then we start look down upon people of other religion, and so accordingly this result into conflict based on religions. Okay, so this was again one more threat for the India. Then the next challenge which India had to face was regionalism. Now, regionalism means having excess for one's own region. So children, don't get confused between communalism and regionalism. Communalism is excessive pride for one's own religion, and regionalism is excessive pride for one's own region, the place where you live in. It is one thing to introduce as a Bengali or a Marathi person. But if I think that because I am a Bengali or a Marathi, I am superior to others from other province, it can term as excessive regional pride. So it should not discriminate people on the basis of religion or on the basis of region also, relating to the particular region where you live in. Regionalism, it can affect both developed as well as underdeveloped states. And so the people of developed states, they believe that they are superior due to their superior history and culture, and hence they have developed that much. Then they began to look down upon the people of undeveloped countries, undeveloped regions, sorry. So accordingly there is automatically the discrimination between the people on the basis of region and religion. So apart from these, there are several problems like our population, cleanliness, poverty, agriculture, housing and food. These are all the basic necessities. Again, there were also problems, the challenges which India had to overcome through all these realities. So but now we can see still we are trying to overcome this and move forward, and we are progressing steadily. Now you must be just aware about the time what we are going through now. So that is again a great challenge in front of India, and then great efforts are made also to overcome it. Children, we have revised with our chapter number 3 in history. That's all for today. Thank you, children.